Hey man, DJ Daddy Fat Tony down right here in the ATL, and I'm with some legends right now. 8Ball MJG. Man, holla at the people real quick, man. What's going on with y'all?
Man, we just been on the grind, man, working on that album, riding high. It'll be due next year.
I just want to do this support 8Ball from 8Ball MJG.
We with 8Ball MJG. They just rocked it. They just rocked the show. I just want to ask them, since it's 20 years, what's the secret?
Yo, this is MJG.
A reflection of what people want from us and like that we do best, you know what I'm saying? And we just, that we didn't want to get away from the people that really want to see 8Ball and MJG.
Picture this, Memphis, Tennessee, early 1970s. The air was thick, the streets were rough, and the whole city pulsed with soul and struggle at the same time. And right in the middle of it sat Orange Mound, one of the oldest, rawest black neighborhoods in the nation. A place heavy with history, dripping with pride, but also weighed down by pain. The sidewalks were cracked, shotgun houses stacked shoulder to shoulder, and survival wasn't guaranteed. This wasn't a place for the weak-hearted, yet from that concrete jungle, two young kids would rise up, kids who would carry the sound of Memphis way beyond the city limits and flip Southern rap forever. One was Primrose Smith. The world would come to know him as 8Ball. The other, Marlon Goodwin, soon to be MJG. Together, they didn't just represent Orange Mound, they embodied it. Their block didn't just raise them, it carved them into legends. Life out there wasn't polished or easy. Nobody was handing out silver spoons or safety nets. It was raw survival every single day. Imagine trying to eat with one of those flimsy plastic forks from a greasy chicken plate, the kind that bends or snaps the second you press too hard. That was life in the mound. Brittle, dangerous, and unforgiving. 8Ball, born October 9th, 1972, learned early how to carry weight, whether it was family struggles, street pressure, or the grind of coming up broke. MJG, born a year or two before, 71, maybe 73, depending on who's telling it. But really, the year didn't matter. Both of them came out the same mud, walked the same cracked streets, and fought the same fight to survive. And in Orange Mound, the exits were limited. You either learned how to hustle, how to hoop, or how to rap. Ball and G chose rhymes, and once they stepped into that lane, there were no breaks. They locked in, sharpened their craft, and carried their neighborhood on their backs with every verse they spit. It all started small, real small, on school bus rides when Memphis was deep in the era of forced buzzing to integrate schools. Kids from Orange Mound were sent clear across town to Ridgeway Middle, and that's where the spark hit. Two young boys, Primrose 8Ball Smith and Marlon MJG Goodwin, riding the same bus, trading rhymes, tossing bars back and forth, realizing they had the same fire burning inside them. By the time high school rolled around, this wasn't just a friendship anymore, it was a partnership. Partners in rhyme, partners in grind. While the city outside was getting crushed by Reaganomics, crack economics, and a future that felt like it was shrinking by the day, these two were filling notebooks with bars and plotting their escape route through music. Back then, Memphis didn't have a real music industry machine. There were no big labels scouting talent in the city, no A&Rs hunting for the next star. If you wanted to be heard, you had to make it happen on your own. That's when DJ Squeaky stepped into the story. Just a teenager with raw talent, a bedroom-turned studio, and speakers shaking the walls with bass. His house became the laboratory. The setup was cheap, the mics were basic, but the energy, electric. Tracks were laid on cassette tapes, beats bounced rough but loud, and neighbors could feel the thumps rumbling through thin drywall. It wasn't polished, but it was real. And real was enough to build a foundation. That's where 8Ball and MJG really started to cook. And they weren't just rappers, they were thinkers, hustlers, entrepreneurs before they even had the title. They built their own little empire called On the Strength Records. Picture this, two teenagers with nothing but Sharpies and determination, dubbing tapes one by one, scribbling labels by hand, and walking into mom and pop record shops to beg owners to put them on shelves. No posters, no radio push, no marketing plan, just hustle, word of mouth, and neighborhood respect. And you know what? People bought them because when the product is raw, and the passion is real, the streets always know. By 1991, they dropped Listen to the Lyrics. And trust me, this wasn't just music. This was Orange Mound talking directly to the world. These weren't radio-friendly tracks. They were hood anthems. They were raw, uncut storytelling that spoke to the hustlers, the grinders, the everyday survivors. It was the soundtrack for people living on the edge, while outsiders couldn't help but raise eyebrows at the honesty. The buzz spread first through their block, then across Memphis, and soon it was rolling down the highway. Memphis was locked in, and then Houston started tuning in heavy. Now, Houston had a young record boss on the rise, Tony Draper. And Draper wasn't your average hustler with a couple of connections. He was a visionary moving like a Southern Clive Davis. While most folks were thinking local, Draper was mapping out the entire region, building Suave House records brick by brick. When those Memphis tapes made their way into his hands, he heard more than just two kids rapping. He heard a movement. He recognized the foundation of something strong, something lasting. He saw 8Ball and MJG not as local artists, but as cornerstones for a whole empire. Draper wasted no time. He reached out, brought Ball and G into the Suave House family, and then secured a distribution deal with Relativity Records. That was the big flip. Two kids who once begged mom and pop stores to stock their hand-dubbed cassettes were now about to see their music pressed, shrink-wrapped, and shipped nationwide. From the block to the big leagues, and it was all happening fast. Then came 1993, and Suave House dropped their official debut, Coming Out Hard. And that title, it was truth in every sense. Heavy bass lines, gritty reality checks, tales of hustling, pimping, and surviving the struggle poured out track after track. The South leaned in close because this was authentic. No gimmicks, no costume jewelry, no watered down image, just Memphis life delivered raw. And people respected it. A year later, they doubled back with On the Outside Looking In, and that name said it all. The South was still locked out of hip-hop's mainstream conversation. New York was flexing its dominance, the West Coast was running wild, and the South was banging at the door like police with a warrant. Ball and G weren't asking for permission. They were telling the world, we're here, and if you don't let us in, we'll kick the door down ourselves. And then came 1995, the year everything changed. On Top of the World dropped, and that album cracked the sky wide open. The single Space Age Pimpin' slid into the culture like fresh candy paint on a Cadillac creeping down the block. Smooth enough for the ladies, raw enough for the hustlers. It was futuristic, fly, and Memphis to the core. The record didn't just buzz, it boomed. Going gold and shooting all the way up to number 8 on the Billboard 200. Think about that for a second. Two kids from Orange Mound who once hustled Sharpie-labeled tapes hand to hand were now top 10 in the entire country. That was history in motion. But with bigger success always comes bigger problems. Draper and Suave House wanted more. More distribution, more reach, more control. At the same time, Ball and G were spreading their wings.
In a new situation right now, you know what I'm saying? So
what's up? Holla at him. It's the real, dog.
We doing our own thing right now, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's the real.
No doubt.
We doing our own thing right now. Yeah, so
man.
November 21st, y'all look for that. Space Age Forever.
MJG stepped out first with his solo No More Glory in 1997, and it went gold. That move proved he wasn't just riding shotgun to 8Ball, he had his own lane. Then in 1998, 8Ball answered back with Lost, a massive double disc stacked with over 2 hours of music. No filler, all fired, and he kept listeners locked in the whole ride. Both solo projects made one point loud and clear. These two could hold their own individually, but while the music was shining, the business was cracking. Money talk turned into money arguments. Contracts got sticky, deals got messy, and suddenly the man who built them up, Tony Draper, was the same man they were clashing with. By the time the millennium rolled in, the ties with Suave House had snapped clean. Ball and G moved to Interscope, ready for the next level, and in 2000 they dropped Space Age 4 Eva. Big label, big rollout, big hopes, but the timing was rough. The South sound was shifting fast. Cash Money and No Limit had the radio on lock, and Ball and G found themselves caught in that storm. The album moved units, but it didn't explode like it was supposed to, and that's when another heavyweight spotted the opportunity. Sean P. Diddy Combs, the ultimate schemer, always with an eye on expansion. Diddy wanted to plant Bad Boy's flag in the South, and who better to crown as kings than Ball and G? In 2003, they officially became the face of Bad Boy South, and the results came quick. 2004 brought Living Legends, and that title couldn't have been more perfect. Videos were running non-stop on BET, features stacked up in their Memphis swag blended smooth with that East Coast polish. Then in 2005, they turned the volume all the way up, linking with 3 6 Mafia for Stay Fly. That record tore the charts apart, cracking the Billboard Top 20, rattling clubs from Memphis to Miami, and the whole country hollering, "I gotta stay fly." For the first time ever, Memphis felt fully united under one anthem. And right at the center of it all stood Ball and G, legends in real time. By 2007, Ball and G dropped Riding High under Bad Boy / Atlantic, and the name fit. They were still relevant, still heavy, still moving like giants. But behind the music, the same old headaches started creeping back. Labels moving funny, contracts sparking arguments, money questions hanging in the air. And from the sidelines, Tony Draper was still barking, still pushing old Suave House material like ghosts from the past. But Ball and G weren't rookies anymore. They were done begging for scraps. They wanted ownership, not leftovers. So they took control. 8Ball built his own platform with 8 Ways Entertainment. MJG followed suit with MJG Music, independent moves, smaller budgets, but all the freedom in the world. No more waiting for some executive to pick a single. They called their own shots, pressed their own buttons. Around 2008, they aligned with T.I.'s Grand Hustle, tapping into the rising trap wave. And in 2010, they proved their pen game hadn't faded with 10 Toes Down. That album was a message. They could still lace up, step into the ring, and trade blows with the best rappers of the era, but the game was changing fast. Trap became the heartbeat of the South. The internet rewired the music industry, YouTube reshaped how fans discovered music, and younger rappers flooded the scene chasing viral moments. Ball and G weren't interested in TikTok dances or chasing temporary clout. They weren't trying to be the flavor of the week. They were veterans now, OGs. Instead of flooding the market with albums, they focused on tours, features, and preserving legacy. That's how you last, not by chasing trends, but by staying solid. Then came the flowers. In 2018, Memphis honored them in the biggest way, inducting them into the Memphis Music Hall of Fame. From 2 kids rapping on bus rides in Orange Mound to Hall of Fame stages, that was their victory lap. And in 2022, they gave the culture a historic moment versus 8Ball and MJG versus UGK. It wasn't beef. It wasn't about who won. It was a celebration. Legends saluting legends. Memphis standing shoulder to shoulder with Port Arthur, Bun B holding it down for the late Pimp C, and the world tuning in to witness the very foundation of Southern rap. And here's the truth. Ball and G may not drop mainstream albums every year, but they never disappeared. They're still out here, moving like OGs at the dice game. Quiet but powerful. Steady, respected, untouchable. When they step up, everyone listens. Their catalog isn't just music, it's stone, carved into hip-hop history. They survived crooked contracts, label politics, and every shift the industry threw at them. They never folded, never broke, never faded. When you talk Southern rap, you cannot skip their names. 2 kids from Orange Mound turned Sharpie label cassette tapes into Billboard charts, gold plaques, and Hall of Fame plaques. They didn't chase gimmicks, they didn't ride trends. They built their own lane and forced the world to respect it. Every time the industry tried to box them in, they broke out stronger. 8Ball and MJG are living proof that true legends don't fade. They stand tall, they stand respected, and they stand 10 toes down forever. So make sure you like, subscribe, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.